So do you feel as comfortable with both looking at this very large perspective of psychology? Because writing psychology and life or core concepts, you must have a very broad knowledge and deep, yes, but rather broad than deep.
Right.
Writing about time, you must have a deep knowledge about time and not just a very...
Right. Yes, so it's a trade-off, so that in writing a textbook, it forces you to look at your whole field. Because a good textbook covers everything, almost everything. But also, I developed a television program called Discovering Psychology, which is 26 half-hour programs. Again, it was for the general public. It wasn't not meant for students, covering all of psychology. So again, I had to step back and I say, I have 26 minutes to introduce motivation. I have 26 minutes to introduce the topic of mental illness. For each whole area of psychology, I have to reduce it to 26 air minutes. So how do you do? So it was always a blend of what is the overarching conception of psychology. At the end, people come away and say psychology is interesting because. But then within each, you say, okay, we only could study one part of motivation in 26 minutes or social psychology. So it was this trade-off of depth versus breadth. And now in the books I've written to say, okay, let's take shyness as part of personality. Let's look at it in detail. Time perspective, you could say maybe it's part of cognitive psychology. It's the way we conceive of things. The looser effect that I did is really part of social psychology, so the power of the situation. So I have been able in my career to switch from being a textbook writer that takes a broad perspective on my field, but then to be a more popular writer, because the books are really popular, Shyness, Time Perspective, and Lucifer, are really more meant for the general pub, but they go into great detail, on a particular subject. So in the Lucifer Effect, I have 50 pages of footnotes. I mean, they're like, I don't know, 300 or 400 footnotes, and so it's really scholarly, even though, but the general public, they could choose not to look at that.
Yeah.
But if you're an intellectual, you want to know, what is the evidence that he said to support this idea?
But there's also one big challenge. Our knowledge is growing up very quickly. As you told, for example, with new methods, with looking at the living brain and so on. It's difficult for one person or even three people to have a good orientation in everything that's round in psychology, not in knowledge.
No, it's a big challenge, because I'm saying this book, every 3 years we revise it. Now, so...
And you have people to help you, let's say, in psychopathology.
Yeah, so what we do is, with the areas that we are not strong in, I will hire graduate students to say, tell me everything new from 2008, when we did this, to 2011 in psychopathology. Tell me everything new about autism. Tell me everything new about job stress. So essentially, they do the background research, and I say, tell me the most interesting study that then I go and read. So they give me, I don't know if you will, the landscape, and then of all of that, I have to decide what can I put in, because on schizophrenia I might have 5 pages. I'm limited by the publisher and how many pages. Otherwise, the book is this big. But then I have to make the decision. Now I know I can trust this graduate student if they're good, that they give me the right new references, but then I go in and read those references, and make a decision. Should I include this study or not? Does this study change the conclusion that we had before? So and then the other thing is, until recently, I teach the introductory psychology course. I've taught for 50 years. So in that class, again, it's an overview of all the main areas in psychology. And that I update every year. I never teach the same course the same way. Every year I make new lectures, not all new lectures, but many new lectures. And I never teach the same lecture ever the same way. So even if it's a familiar lecture about learning or conditioning or social psychology, I always think of a new way to introduce it, a new way to end it, or new transitions. Because this is what makes it fresh for me. So it has to be a student in each year that doesn't know I've been teaching this for 40 years. They sit there and they see me for the first and only time. They want it to seem as if I have just discovered this field of social psychology or motivation.
For them.
For them.
Just
right,
for them. And of course, I know that you are a wonderful, extraordinary lecturer, because I had a chance to listen to your
Thank you.
lectures. I know also that you are a wonderful author, and still I can't understand how one man is able of doing so many exciting things.
I work very hard.
And
I
maybe
work
you
very
have a
hard.
secret that the time for you has a stop just to leave you more hours than to all people.
No, it's really very strange. See, okay, I'll tell a very personal story. I don't know if the audience is interested. When I was a child, I was very close to death. When I was 5 years old, I was in a hospital for 5 months for all poor children in New York who had contagious disease. Tuberculosis, polio, scarlet fever. I had whooping cough and double pneumonia, which means I could barely breathe. I had to be put in an oxygen tent. This is before they had portable oxygen for some long time. And there was 1939, no penicillin, no sulfa drugs, meaning no treatment. You just lay in a bed night and day, and children died all around. Some lived, some died. It was like genetic roulette. There was no treatment. You just laid there. They didn't do anything. At some point, my father had to come give me his blood direct from his arm into my arm. They didn't have, plasma in those days. And I lived for 5 months, and at the end of the time, magically, I went home. But was always very sick. Always had bad lungs. Could hardly breathe. But I think there was something about surviving that I came to believe that I was given the gift of life. And that at some level, as a child, I believed, well, I'm going to live forever. Since I overcame this nightmare, then I would live forever. And also felt that, just lying there doing nothing, that I had the need to do things, to have energy. So I am now 77 years old, an old man. Nobody I knew when I was a child. My father died when he was 69, my mother when she was 69. So on a given day, like today, even though I was very tired because I had been giving lectures in London, in Paris, and Lyon, today, this is the last of 8 interviews that started 7 o'clock this morning.
I saw it.
Each interview was 1 hour or more. And when we finish this, I will go to University of Warsaw and give an hour lecture. And then tonight I will pack and leave 6 o'clock tomorrow morning to go home to San Francisco. And the week before I went to London, I was on the East Coast of America. I gave 6 lectures in 7 days, including a lecture at the UN, the United States Naval Academy, and New York University, Eastern Psychological Association. And the last day, I was at the Naval Academy. The last 3 days, I gave 6 lectures, not lectures, I taught 6 classes in 3 days as an old man.
So what's the secret?
I don't know. So I just have energy.
Some magic?
I just have, maybe it's a Sicilian background, I don't know. But I have more energy than I think anyone I know, regardless of young age or old age, certainly more than most other people. And I'm always excited about life. I think because I was given the gift of life, because I was close to dying, and a magical thing happened. There was no medicine, that I always felt, well, I was given the gift of life, and I have to use it, use that gift to do things, to explore things, that there's so much of interest in the world. It's my job to explore it and then pass it on to young people, to say, here's what I have discovered in the textbook, in the Lucifer, in the Shyness, in the Time book. And for me, it's exciting, so I don't get tired.
So may we conclude that next year, same time, same place, for the whole core concepts, you'll be in Poland?
Perhaps. By then we'll have all the 5 volumes.
The 4 more volumes,
4
yes.
more, yeah. And what's wonderful is all of these are what they call a taste of psychology.
Yes.
I love this. It's grapes.
And I hope that
and
you'll
apples.
taste not only psychology, but also Poland.
Poland and Polish food.
And Polish taste.
Yes, and I was blessed to have dinner at your house and lunch with your daughter, and a wonderful dinner at Professor Rajkowski's house. And I love Polish food and Polish vodka. Not so sure about Polish wine, but...
No, Polish wine is awful.
Not compared to California.
So maybe let's conclude. Psychology is the best in Phil Zimbardo edition. But Polish food is not too bad serving Phil to feel better.
Oh, thank you. No, I feel much better than when I came here. Thank you,
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.